2. Let's go ahead and jump into the Slav. And we have the typical structure. And I thought for a while about the best way to move forward, and I really like the move order of playing e3 here. And this is the most solid of the move orders, and especially if you're a French player, you like my course on Chessable, Master the French Defense, what I want you to notice is that it is a backwards French defense pawn structure, and we do have a lot of flexible plans. So let's see one of those backdoor openings to start with. What if black plays e6 and then follows with f5, and he's backdoored into a stonewall Dutch structure? Well, the thing you need to remember when playing against the stone wall with this structure is we're going to break that wall. We are eventually looking to play for an e4 break in many of the variations. But in the very least, we want to stop black from being able to use that e4 square strongly for his knight. So we're first going to start off with bishop d3, put the knight on e2. Important memory marker, because the f-pawn is going to want to be on f3 for both flexibility in attacking and defensive ideas. So bishop d6, there's that critical f3 move. Queen c2, bishop belongs there, and castling with the ability soon to play e4. You can prep it a bit more if you like. Black can flail, and we're going to see this pawn structure often versus the Slav lines and what I'm recommending. So you'll get comfortable with seeing this type of structure. So e3, back to our main line, knight f6, knight c3. So let's get some of our sideline moves out of the way here. So what about the very solid g6, a favorite of players like Gadakamsky? Well, knight f3, bishop g7, and we're just going to simply get a solid position to develop our pieces normally. This is a critical moment. We're going to capture on d5, and then simply go queen b3. And how this is a memory marker is in many variations of the Slav, what you'll see is when this bishop is touched, it is the space left behind. It was defending b7. So when the bishop is moved, we're looking at something with queen b3 typically, so we can hit both d5 and b7 at the same time. So takes, queen b3, and white just has the slightest of edge. We can bishop d2, maybe rook fc1, double on the open c file. That's how we move forward in these positions and just take our little bit of better. Next up, we'll see that principle in motion again. Bishop f5. The bishop left the c8 square, so capture, queen b3, same principle. Now, we are attacking two things at the same time, and this is actually a pawn sacrifice that has come into fashion, I believe, from the Grandmaster Repertoire series with a rook on the Slav. And this is a position that I looked at a bit, and we grab a pawn, black gets play, but after analyzing it with the engine a little bit, I feel like you can just develop normally, and white's going to be simply better because black has sacked a pawn for all this play. But as I'm trading pieces here, I can go b3, bishop b2, castle. I feel like white is in the driver's seat with the extra material, and we can play against the isolated pawn in the long term. So last but certainly not least, we have the a6 Chebanenko style play. And I like a particular way to play against the Chebanenko, and it stems from knight f3 first. And here we start with c5, and the idea is to sink a knight on e5 and follow it with f4. And I think it's a simple plan, but if you notice, the main break for black is to at some point play for e5. So I can't tell you how often when I play this plan, black goes just absolutely nuts trying to punish me here in the position, and typically does something to lose quite quickly. And if he doesn't play for, say, f6, e5 and go nuts, he's just going to get positionally ground down over time. So a3, we're seeing this f6, and instead of the e5 type stuff, well, you've opened up the square right back for me. And how else is this bishop going to get out? We see this maneuver in the French defense as well as in the Dutch in many lines. So we're going to activate our bishop over time here. Make our bishop great again and whatnot. Knight e5, queen e1. Bishop was in the way. So we're just organizing our pieces. And it's lovely how things came together. And black is just in a passive ball. We can continue to press on the king side. And I love this tactical sequence. Rook f7, bishop f6, dirty, dirty, dirty. Gets the queen and then goes into this and wins. Following a game from Intel Masters 2008. So back to our main line, knight c3, e6. And by and large, when I play against Slav players, it's like everybody is just triangle, set up, I got it. I don't want to have to think too much, just this. I just want to put my pieces on squares. That's fine. So let's do something a little bit out of the ordinary. I'm not just going to follow what's in a bunch of books. I remember seeing a game from the Blindfold King where he played bishop d2 in this position, and I thought, well, this is weird, but I'll follow along and see what he's got. And you get positions that are equal but flavorful. They're a little bit different than other Slav positions. And we'll see the key idea. I'm going to go through the side variations first, and then we're going to get to the main position. So knight bd7, rook c1. Well, we move the bishop. Might as well utilize that open file that we have the potential of creating. Now, bishop d6 is the main line, but let's first start with dc4. Well, you get that Moran-style play. We want to play against the extension. Knight goes to e4, and bishop would be playing against his and stopping that critical move of c5 if he captured. So c5 immediately, castles. And this position is very, very similar in structure to what we're going to see in a future video on the Queen's Gambit Accepted. So we'll pause this structure right now, and you'll get it more in depth in that video. So coming back, what about revisiting this Chebanenko style? We're going to capture in the center, bishop d3, and instead of the knight coming to f3, we're back to our structure of how we play against the stone wall, and we're looking to break on e4 if black doesn't give himself an isolated pawn and play in this manner. So a little bit of uncoiling here. Then all of white's pieces kind of come to bear in the position. And I really liked this game from Linnaeus 2015. And we've got bishop e7, the passive cousin to bishop d6. And here's one of those memory markers, because I often get the question, well, do I put my bishop on e7 or d6? Well, when you put your bishop on e7, it's typically because there's a bishop on g5 pinning this knight. When that is not the case, the bishop's going to go to d6. And this applies to Slav and London system players and Caro-Kann players most of the time. The exception to this is when your opponent is looking to play for e-pawn. Like a King's Indian, they're looking to play e5. And you don't want to be in a situation where e4, e5 is going to fork your pieces. That's just simply not going to be the case here. That's why bishop d6 is the main line and the superior move to bishop e7. But you're still going to see bishop e7 from time to time, and we're back to captures. Bishop d3, and lo and behold, we have the structural orientation again. And f3, controlling key squares. We see black playing for c5 again as he did before. We're not afraid of giving up the bishop pair because we end up netting a pawn. And this is a game from chess.com 2020 between two 2,600 plus FIDE players. White went on to win. last but definitely not least, let's get into the main event, bishop d6. And the main line, I actually do not like for black at all. I feel like he would be doing better with going with one of our side lines. But here is the critical moment, memory marker, key idea, if you will. With the bishop on d6, we can first do something which is typically bad. We can play c5. You normally don't want to play c5 in the Slav because when they get in the e5 break, the d pawn moves, which in turn, this pawn can't be defended, it's going to be lost. But what's different about this position is that we can prevent e5 and we get a lock. Much as we saw earlier with the Chebanenko line, I want to kill all counterplay and set up this f4 structure, which is one of the main benefits of holding back the knight on g1. You get the flexibility to play these ideas, kind of lay in wait and surprise the opponent. So we got castles. A sideline would be b6. How do we deal with this? Protect our space investment. Take. And then we're back to normal. So we'll finish this off with following a bit of an example game. Bishop d3. Bishop h4 may be a threat, so knight f3. And it should be noted that when you get this type of structure, look at the just mass of pieces that black has with no coordination. We have the ability to play on either wing. You can break on g4 or break on b5 in this position. So keep these ideas in mind. And I really like the way that white played in this game with knight e5. Black's going all out. And we really don't have need to fret too much. Rook lift. And much easier to break on b5 in the position. Takes. b6. And after g4, white went on to win a game from 2014 in style. And this will do it for this video on the Slav. Main takeaways are this interesting structure to say play against the stone wall. This knight e2, f3 can be played against a number of these variations. And I really like the main line overall with this bishop d2 idea. And if bishop d6, which is so natural, we can kind of punish and tempo the bishop, leading to this structure, which is flexible, and we're looking to be able to play, say, king h1, breaks on both wings. So that'll do it for this one.